There's no life that don't have a history. How you start.
Never you neglect the day of your little beginning.
That was how I did not eat food throughout the Christmas.
The worst part of it, the government is even encouraging foreign furnitures.
We failed man.
Go to their ministries.
We failed God. God with this gave Nigeria everything.
Hello viewers, I'm Emmanuel Acedo, and this is The Leading Men. The Leading Men is a program designed to inspire the viewers through the stories and lives of men that have carved a niche for themselves in their various fields and sector. Today we are going to be talking to a man that has been able to carve a niche for himself in the political sector, a PDP juggernaut, an intellectual man that has aired his opinion in various topics and subjects. Stay tuned as I introduce my guest. This is The Leading Men. With me in the studio is Dr. Kash Ononuju. He's the Director General of Heritage Center, a political juggernaut, an active member of the People's Democratic Party, and an intellectual in the PDP. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Please, I would like you to introduce yourself to our viewers. How did you get to this point?
Well, I got where I am by persistence. I continue to believe very well that being in the public space and being a television personality and a celebrity on television, I can only sound the truth. And not a lot of people like me because I speak the truth. And that's why I believe there are no positions for me to prevaricate on issues. I make sure very much that I read and have an honest grasp of the facts. So I have taken strongly to studying about our past. As you know, history is still not taught in our schools, but I have taught myself history, Nigerian history. Of course, as an economist, I understand the markets and the other things that go about growing an economy. And I am committed to developing Nigeria. I am willing, if possible, to do anything for the good of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You ask me questions about IPOB. I'm Igbo, but I do not want Biafra. Because why should I want a shot of the brandy when I can have the entire bottle? I am committed to Nigeria, and I have no doubt victory is very, very close by. We have had today 18 years of unbroken economic expansion, the longest period of political stability. So I'm very happy as a PDP member to have been part of those that have provided a guiding light to where we are today. We are now in our country's longest period of political stability. So we have a lot to actually celebrate. And I am available as a leading voice on television to provide guidance about the way forward and to tell the love to young people, despair is not an option. I have no doubt Nigeria will overcome. I am Kachi, and I believe in Nigeria.
That's a very lovely one. To think that an Igbo man will say publicly that he is not interested in the shot of the band or the full bottle. I really like that opinion. Welcome back to The Leading Men. With me in the studio is a political juggernaut, the Director General of Heritage Center, an intellectual in the People's Democratic Party. He has held various opinions in economics, politics, and various other fields. He's today going to be mentoring us and giving advice to the general public and including his party. Please join me as I welcome Dr. Kachi Ononuju. Welcome to this.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, we know that the convention is around the corner and everybody is gearing up in the People's Democratic Party. We would want to know, the viewers would want to know, what really do you think led to the loss of power by the PDP to the APC?
Very straightforward. We had an internal rebellion by the ethnic Fulani members of our party who insisted that President Goodluck should not run again, but allowed one of them to run to complete the term they believe President Omar Yar'Adua would have had he not died. So I believe it was that running again that instigated the abandonment of the party by a lot of those people. Then I had an alliance, which you call the APC. Well, as we can see, the APC won the election, but it was not allowed to form government because Buhari institutionalized and installed a Fulani cabal. And that's why you're seeing a lot of people coming back to the only national party. That's the reason we lost the election. And now we have zoned back our presidency back to the north so that they could see that we are not an anti-north, we're not an anti-Sunni party. And because of that, if they take our bait, that means the north will have 12 years. President Buhari is 4 years, and the 2 years, 2 terms to be done by whoever wins in the PDP. So that will kind of balance out what we've had. Since democracy, President Goodluck has had, yes, we'll call it 5-6 years. President Obasanjo has had 8 years. So if Yar'Adua had had 2 years before he passed on, we can allow the north to also have an equalizing number of years to feel some quality of inclusion in what we're doing.
That's a very wonderful opinion. The upcoming election on the 9th, we've seen various aspirants. In your opinion, who do you think is most likely to take the chairmanship, the leadership in the PDP?
I cannot predict because there are a lot of permutations. But we have previously done zonings in order to have an inclusive basket of stakeholders, feel very, very carried along. But we have had that challenged. And so far, we're trying to walk behind the scenes to make sure that no matter how the convention goes, that we would not have an annual implosion. I believe the Supreme Court crisis that got us there was actually caused by the embrace of impunity and by the absence of internal democracy. The Supreme Court gave us a chance for us to go back and correct our ways. If we have corrected those ways, we will see when we get to the convention.
So, in your opinion, you don't have a likely candidate that might come up. You think you're more likely to come out as the chairman of the PDP. You don't have anybody you're gunning for personally?
I cannot go for anybody personally because there are a lot of people contesting. I cannot pinpoint somebody personally because there are a lot of horse tradings to be done. I believe probably just in the next few days, the stakeholders will come together and probably point their fingers towards the path for us to look towards. Until that, it will be wrong for anybody to put his money on any horse. Right now, it's an open race.
Considering the issue of zoning, we have some people in the East talking about independent people of Biafra. What is the PDP doing about that? Are they taking advantage of that situation? Some have said it's a fail of government in the East, and the government presently is the APC. Now, has PDP put that in perspective? Are they including the Igbos into the government?
Yes.
They've zoned the presidency, according to you, to the north, the chairmanship to the southwest, right? So where is the East coming into play?
The East came in because we did zone. We say the Southeast will produce a vice president. And we say the chairman should come from the South. And our initial crisis zoning were micro-zoned to the southwest. But later on, some said no, they don't agree, should be open to the entire south. But if I must confess to you, our real problem is that of funding. If we have an honest collective funding strategy, I do not think the PDP will be challenged as it is presently. But being that as it may, we know very well, you called the IPOB, the Independent Agitation for Biafra. I would want you to bear in mind, it did not start in the East. As we got onto democracy, the first real agitation came from the North. The North agitated for a Sharia system after President Obasanjo took power. In an election where we won the party, him being a flag bearer was there, and then the normal problem from the North came up. We've had this during the time of Shagari, and that was the Maitasene riots. So we've always had that problem, and that we recognize it's due to the competitive aspects of democracy. And that was why we moved on to try to, what I would say, in a very polite form, reform the school system in northern Nigeria. As I speak to you today, southern Nigeria is home to 79% of the educated population of Nigeria. The north is home to 19%. The 3 other percent floats in the air. And President Goodluck saw that. That was why he now sought to open schools all over the north, so that every state in Nigeria has a federal university. Well, he also reformed the elementary. It is on record, according to United Nations, that Nigeria is home to the highest concentration of children without access to education than anywhere else on earth, according to United Nations. This is because of the elementary institution. It is the same as the madrasas we have in Pakistan and Bangladesh. And when we recognize this, President Goodluck set purpose towards reforming the elementary system so that it could actually take a lot of children, change the syllabus there, and then have a lot of children that will graduate and possess the logistics to compete in a market-driven system built upon a market democracy. But as you can see, the Buhari administration has allowed the 15 billion naira that we put into the elementary reform system to fritter away. So Buhari really does not mean, honestly, to stop the Boko Haram. I don't think he really means to help the North, because the best way to help the North is to stop Boko Haram. And the only way to stop Boko Haram is do not allow people to see despair. You cannot say despair. And the way to create hope for the future is to provide education. And that, we believe, a Marshall Plan for education in the North was the only way for us to stop the sustained agitations every time we have democracy. When we had democracy first after the Civil War, it came as Maitasene. When we had agitations again after we go back to democracy now, it came as the Sharia, which has now metamorphosed into Boko Haram. So we think the best way to solve Boko Haram is a Marshall Plan investment in education, and that was why we sought to reform the elementary institution. We put 15 billion into that reformation. But today, the present government of President Buhari has abandoned that to fritter. And I do understand that, because something that should not gain education, then there will be a lot of awareness, and awareness to lead to agitations, and they think they will not be able to control what will come after.
If you say that the issue from the North is basically education, failure in the government to invest in education or allow the already invested money to take effect, what would you now say about the East, where you have rightly said that they have more percentage of educated people over there? So why are we seeing the pipeline bombing, the agitation in the East, the IPOB agitation? What would you think is the fault, is the cause of those agitations, considering the present government?
Because the present government operates like a force of occupation. The present government set up a board for NNPC, and the present government did not think about including those who own the hydrocarbon fields. So it's like a government of occupation. The Igbos, you have 4 Igbo men who are governors today in Nigeria who come from hydrocarbon-bearing states. But are those people reflected in the composition of the NNPC? The Igbo are the majority today in Rivers State. You have the Igbos in Rivers, where Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is governor. I mean, in Delta, where Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is governor. You have Igbos in Abia State. They have a carbon-bearing state. You have Igbos in Imo State. You have Igbos also where the Orient Petroleum operates in Anambra State. But what has Buhari done? And if you look, only 10 states contribute to the federation account. The 9 oil-bearing states and Lagos State. But Buhari rules like a government of occupation. He does not consider these people to, be actually the fit to be included. Look at his appointments. So the people think Buhari's employment of nepotism as policy for them is unacceptable. And that's why you've seen the sudden flaring up of agitations in the East. But then, to put you proper, agitations did not start from the East since we came back to democracy. It started from the North, where we saw the agitations for Sharia, which now transmuted into Boko Haram. We also saw the agitations in the Southwest, where the Yorubas formed the OPC, protesting the annulment of Abiola's election, which of course was as a strategy towards calming that. Obasanjo was brought out of prison and installed as president as a way to ameliorate the anger from the Southwest. Of course, you also have agitations from the Niger Delta. The Delta believes, as we saw in the attempt to commence the remediation of the land in Ogoni land, and nothing to show to the people apart from these intervention agencies that we've had, which of course are riddled with corruption. And that's what people are now agitating for restructuring. And the PDP does support restructuring. The PDP did convene the national conferences, the Obasanjo conferences, and the Good Luck 2014 conferences. We believe the ingredients and the protocols that will bring a more inclusive Nigeria are inherent in the suppositions and the outcomes of those conferences. We are urging this government to quickly embrace the reports of those conferences and start implementation as a way to douse the agitations.
Hold that up. I will go on a short break. Continue. You're still watching The Leading Men, and we'll be back shortly.
The Leading Man, a television program, provides a platform for powerful, influential, and successful people. It allows them to share their ideas, secrets to success in leadership, business, career, and profession, as well as lifestyle in order to mentor others. The Leading Man aims to close the leadership gap around the world and encourage the next generation leaders. The Leading Man, showing on this station every Saturday at 10 a.m.
Considering the fuss made about the corruption campaign by the present government, do you think progress has been made in that front? And how do you think, if it hasn't, it can be achieved?
Well, the truth about it is Buhari is a very deceitful man. Buhari is a cabal himself. I do not take the corruption story seriously. I will say by our actions, our characters are defined. Buhari is defined by his actions. And so far, he's been a man of rhetorics. Everything about him, I could tell you could take from his actions. So for me, I do not want to start telling Nigerians, all I will tell them is judge from the things you've seen.
So what facts do you have to that statement that his actions are deceitful? Because we have seen various prosecutions going on. The EFCC are going after some prominent names. Agencies are going after other agencies. So how is that deceitful in your opinion?
Because all we've had are noises with no convictions. So what I will refer to as plenty of motion without movement. That's what you see in the Buhari administration. Buhari, I would say, is not fighting corruption, but he's fighting perceived corrupt members of the opposition. The minute you join the APC, you then recognize that the anti-corruption rhetoric is actually a strategy towards recruitment of new members for the APC. Every time you join the APC, you are a saint. They will even call you on the phone. Oh, sir, where are you? I would like to bring back your passport to you. So that is not a government you say is fighting corruption. They're not. What conviction have they had? Nothing. It's all just rhetoric.
Won't you say that it's because they are following the due process of law, or that there's a clog in the achievement of their aims in regards to corruption?
I don't believe that. Don't forget the PDP set up the EFCC. The PDP set up the ICPC. The PDP committed to privatization. No privatization has happened since Buhari has been in power. You understand? So all the convictions the EFCC has been able to do were all PDP game. And nothing has happened now. Look at all the mountains of corruption. This government, in regards to corruption, is 1 week, one trouble. Look at the Maina case. Maina has been claiming on television that he was back to country with the clearance of President Buhari, that Malami met him in Dubai. Of course, I want to also tell the audience that Malami, the President Attorney General, used to be Mr. Maina's counsel. It was Malami's chamber that went to defend him when first the PDP government charged him for corruption. Then he ran away. When Malamina became Attorney General, Malamina became a conduit pipe for trying to get him Mr. Maina reinstated. And as you've heard, my friend, son, Festus Keyamo said last week, that Malami's writings and persistent advices were what led to Maina's reinstatement.
Well, he has come out to say that his signature was forged and he's had no part to play.
If his signature was forged, he told you that. Malami, so what did he go to Dubai to say about him?
He met him in Dubai. Evidence to that effect. So I think we should be speaking based on facts.
Well, I am happy you're saying this. If you're saying this, I will take it that you're parroting what he said.
No, I'm not.
Because it is still in the public domain,
yes.
Let us keep watching.
Yes, so
what you ask yourself is, if it is proven beyond doubt that these things are true, what has Buhari done? But let me also tell you the biggest corruption going on in the country. Apart from my campaign for the country to understand that nepotism is the most violent form of corruption. Today in Nigeria, foreigners come from Mali, Tanzania, Congo, the Gambia, to come and kill indigenous aboriginal people in the Middle Belt. Why? They want to take away their grass-bearing land. And the president keeps quiet. When we catch the people with guns, they say the people bearing guns are foreigners. If they are foreigners, why are they allowed to roam Nigerian forests with guns? The other day, the Minister of Agriculture said there's an ECOWAS protocol allowing herdsmen to move from country to country. But should they now come to seek to appropriate to themselves aboriginal ancestral lands that belong to Nigerian people? As I'm speaking to you, there are killings going on in Newman. The government has said nothing. There are killings going on in Kukui. The government has said nothing. There are killings going on in Kaduna State. There are crises in the Mambila, there is in Gumbu, there is in Berkinlad, there is in Vandikia, there is in Kasinala, and in Kwende. Why is government keeping quiet?
Well, I feel
that's why the states are taking laws into their hands.
I feel that the government, Buhari himself, cannot be in every agency at the same time. The security agencies have a part to play in border patrol, in state security and the rest of them. So don't you think it's a failure on the part of the security agencies?
The buck stops at the president's place. I have had cause to discuss with the security man. He said, look, the president won't let us do this. They won't let us arrest those people. So that's why the indigenous population are now taking the laws into their hands. It is because the government failed in its duty to arrest those foreigners who are coming to Nigeria to try to cleanse the indigenous people off their wetlands. Everywhere you see crisis, you will see that there's a wetland there that is grass bearing. What does the government say? The government say it is a Muslim-Christian crisis. It's not Muslim-Christian crisis. There is nowhere in Nigeria where you have problem between Muslims and Christians. Anywhere you see those crises occur, you will see Fulanis who have come from Mali, from Tanzania, from Mauritania, from the Congo, seeking to displace indigenous people of their ancestral lands. Why do we cloud these things as if it's religious? They're not religious. The government should stand up and do what it was sworn into office to do. Protect lives and property and ensure security. If not, we shall have problem with food security.
Considering the current Libyan crisis,
yes,
slave trade, what's your advice to the government?
Very simple. It is because of the failure of this government, the ineptitude of the government in providing the economic growth that it promised it will bring. That's why the citizens are running away from country. Don't forget, when the Italians and the Irish did the mass migration to the United States, their homes were no good. It is when the home is no good, that's when people will start migrating elsewhere, looking for greener sojourn. Because our country is in such terrible condition under the Buhari administration. That is why you're having a lot of Nigerians run out. Some die seeking greener pastures outside. But if we're able to fix our economy internally, our citizens will not run away.
There has always been a recent pass mark given to the government. In fact, they've stated that we have been out of a recession. So if you are saying that it's due to the economic challenges we are facing, that people are seeking greener pastures, the government holds a totally different view.
That is not true. The story is about out of recession. It's just manufactured data. Recession is a hole. You're out of recession when you're out of the hole. You're not out of recession when you have still inside the hole, being told how to climb out of the hole. You're only out of recession when you've gotten out of the hole. You cannot be inside the hole, planning on how to get out of the hole, and then telling people that I'm out of the hole. No, you can't be in the hole and claim that you're out of recession. If we're out of recession, where is the expansion in monetary supply? Where is the stimulus? It's none. So for you to be out of recession, there has to be a commitment, Keynesian style, to monetary expansion. That is what you call the stimulus. There is no stimulus anywhere. The government just got approval only a week ago to go borrow $5.3 billion so as to be able to fund the current budget. So if the budget is not funded, how would you find the stimulus that will create the monetary expansion in the economy? There is nothing like that. Those are just rhetorics. If we're out of recession, me and you will feel it. So why don't we feel it? Why isn't the government just speaking? Maybe because they have money to share. Me and you don't have. If it's out of recession, the population are not out of the pit.
Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Kachi. We've run out of time. I hope some other time we will be able to continue on these issues.
Thank you for having me.
Have a lovely day. That's it on Leading Men. We wish we could take more, but unfortunately we have very, very, very little time on our hands. Till we meet again, have a lovely day.